Great.
Yeah.
So hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar hosted by the Global Surgical Education Leadership GSEL series of Incision. We are thrilled to have many of you joining us from all over the world. It is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Jesús Guarecuco, a PGY-3 General Surgery Resident at Larkin Community Hospital in Miami. Originally from Venezuela, Dr. Guarecuco is an accomplished MD and surgeon with a passion for mentoring, serving as a USMLE mentor and coach. He's actually involved in leadership roles within Project MG and is a proud member of the Resident and Associate Society of the American College of Surgeons, South Florida chapter. Today, Dr. Guarecuco will guide us through an incredibly important topic, but also timely topic. That is competency-based surgical education, transitioning from time-based to skill-based training models. He'll explain how surgical education is changing, focusing on outcomes and skill development over traditional time-based programs, which is a shift that has profound implications for the future of surgical training. Please note that the webinar is recorded and may also be used for future purposes. Following, there will be also a Q&A session at the end. Without further ado, Dr. Guarecuco, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much to all the Incision group. Very interesting for you guys to, to be able to share all this information with all the future surgeons around the world. I'm very grateful for you guys for inviting me to this webinar. This is a very interesting topic. It's a topic that not many people is speaking about around the world, but it's going on. It's a situation that is going on currently in the past 5 to 10 years, and it will be continue to evolve during the next 5 to 10 years. Is a transition. That's why we are calling this transition. Also, we're currently, all the surgery residency programs across the world are using, different training models for surgery residencies. Most of them are using competency time-based education. So in order to understand a little bit more about what we're talking about, we need to understand what we are currently using in most of the countries around the world. So there is a traditional surgical training model that historically is what we use, or what we do is the residents spend a fixed number of years in training programs. For example, in Venezuela, it's 3 to 4 years of surgery residency. In the United States, it's usually 5 to 7 years, depending if you include 2 more years of research. But most of the countries also in Europe and in Asia are around 4 years average residency. So it's a fixed number of years. And as soon as you finish that, you are eligible to have a license as a general surgeon. And then if you want to pursue another specialty, you continue with your education. But the advancement to the next level is often based in the amount of time spent rather than the actual skill or competency demonstrated. Okay, so if you pass a year, go to a second year, go to a third year, and you finish your 4th year and you are surgeon. It doesn't matter how many exact numbers of procedures or the evaluation of the skills. If you finish your 4 years of training, you should be able to start working. So there was some concerns for some deficiencies, right? With these amounts of years spent in surgical education. So they found that there's a need for change. So recent advances in surgical techniques, technology, and the patient expectations have highlighted the need for a more dynamic, skills-focused training model. We understand that there are limitations of time-based models, usually because there is variability in residents' performance. Every person learns in a different way. Okay, so some surgeons finishing their training without mastering essential skills. Some people is very good at theory, and some others are better in practice, in skills. So there is a incongruence of knowledge and mastering essential skills that was that was the red flag for a need for change. So, and also we have a significance for the audience, because this transition will impact not only how future surgeons will be trained, but also how they will be evaluated and progress in their careers. The shift to a competency-based model aims to ensure that surgeons are fully prepared and proficient, enhancing both surgical outcomes and patient safety. And this is the most important part of this transition. Try to see how can we use the technology that we have right now, and see how can we improve our surgical outcomes and patient safety. So what is the current state of surgical education? The thing is that there are limitations, for the time-based model, which is the model that most of the surgery residents are using around the world right now. So the residents progress at different rates. You might be faster than me. At some point, maybe I can reach you at some level, and or maybe I won't reach you at all because there are not enough resources for me to learn in that program. Maybe I need a specialized program, but there's nothing that we are using now to trying to accelerate that process or trying to diagnose that you are not mastering the skills that you should be doing right now. So the focus is on process over outcomes. So this emphasis is on completing rotations rather than mastering the skills. So yes, you need to do 3 months of vascular, then 3 months of emergency, then 4 months of trauma, 2 months of this. So we are focusing on only the amount of months that you are doing the rotations instead of the skills that you should be mastering in each one of those rotations. So there are missed opportunities for personalized learning because there is a limited flexibility to adapt training to each resident's individual skills. And that is also because most of the residents are heavily working in different areas in different times with heavy workload and shift, 24-hour shift that hasn't been changed in several places. In some places they're changing only to do 12-hour shifts, but we're still using 24-hour shift. In matter of fact, we in my program we still have some 24-hour shifts. So this is something that could affect or impact in a negative way also your training. And there's also a risk of patient safety, advance to higher levels of responsibility without demonstrating the necessary surgical skills. So why change is necessary? We need more adaptable outcomes focused approach. So we need to ensure that every single surgeon is fully prepared to deliver high quality care. It's as simple as that. It doesn't matter how much time it took for that person to achieve that readiness or that skill. The important thing is that this surgeon has mastered the skill in order to perform that individually with a fully licensed in a live person. So that's the important part. So the competency-based education, which is the one we are leaning towards, is a training approach that focuses on the mastery of that skill, that knowledge, or that attitudes required to effective surgical practice. So this model we use to evaluate the progressions of the trainee in determine areas of skills, determine abilities to demonstrate proficiency in a clearly defined competencies rather than by the amount of time spent in training. So what are the core principles of this competency-based education? It is outcome-oriented. You have personalized learning pathway, and there's a clear competency framework. And so when I say this now, the competency-based education has, for example, and specifically in education, in surgical education, if you are assessing for a surgical technique, let's say you want to evaluate the student or the resident performing a laparoscopic/robotic cholecystectomy, removing the gallbladder. Okay, so now because we have the technology, we can actually assess how long it took you, how many instruments do you use, how many time do you spend using which instrument, how many clips do you use to clip the cystic dog or the cystic artery. If you have any complications, are you using more the right hand or the left hand? Do you measure all the ports, the side where you put the port? How long took you to enter with a varus needle or doing the open incision? So all these things, you have a specific timing and specific instruments and specific education. So it's a clear framework, and you will be evaluated and then compare. So we don't do it just one time. We do every time you have to do that procedure, and then you compare and then you assess. The student has a steady learning curve, improving every time that he goes and do the procedure in a correct way. Of course, there are going to be some outliers, which those difficult cases that usually are going to be difficult for anyone. It doesn't matter how skilled is the surgeon. It's just the patient itself have a complication or it's a very difficult case. So those cases are outliers, and you won't be evaluated for those specific cases. You need to be evaluated for the similar cases always. So to ensure that all surgical trainees reach a consistent level of competence, improving the quality of surgical care and patient safety, while also enhancing the overall efficiency of surgical education. It's much easier to compare residents with this model than just saying that because the patient spent 1 month or X amount of months in that specific area. Let's say me and my co-resident, we have 3 months of vascular surgery. You cannot tell who is better in each. Are you seeing that in the client? Okay. You cannot tell which is better in each part because it's difficult to assess with only the amount of time spent if me or my co-resident are we are at the same level in the vascular surgery specialty, right? So it's different if we compare, okay, Dr. Guarecuco has done this X amount of procedures, and his time of performing a AV fistula, it's X amount of time. I have improved every time. So you have a table explaining all the outcomes, and then you compare with the other resident. The other resident has not reached that level, maybe because when he was during those months, there was less amount of AV fistulas patients to do. Maybe I did 10 and he did 2. He cannot be at the same level that I because I did more cases. So repetition is always important. So those are the things that we need to assess. Maybe if that specific resident hasn't been exposed to a X amount of surgical cases or surgical procedures, then you need to put him to do those procedures in order for him or her to master that skill. So that's the important part of competency-based education, that you are doing a specialized, personalized education, surgical education for that resident. So there are key components for this training. So we have skill-based progression, which is pretty much what I just explained, personalized learning and continuous feedback and improvement. That's also very important part, because if we have that educational tool that we are using this technology, then we can give a much thorough feedback to the resident. We can explain with more details what are the things that you are lacking in order for you to improve that skills, and just practice those specific things that you are not fully prepared yet. Okay, so what are those assessment tools that we use? So we can use the objective structured clinical examinations that we call OSCEs. There are simulated clinical scenarios to assess skills in a standardized manner. This is very important. This is what we are currently doing, simulated clinical scenarios. And that's the way that we also prepare for exams. We have simulated real scenarios, and the questions are regarding real scenarios, and what we do is very much describe what would you do in that scenario and answer accordingly, like an oral board. Then you have direct observation. So the faculty or the attending or any mentor you specifically have will observe you during real or simulated surgeries, providing immediate feedback on their performance. And this is the good thing of having artificial intelligence VR simulators, because it's also a way for them to evaluate us. They might be there with us, or this could be recorded and evaluated after you perform that skill, and then you get a feedback when the attending see the recording and the evaluation of the procedures that you're supposed to be doing on the simulator. So you have the simulation-based learning, use surgical simulators to practice procedure in a risk-free environment, allowing repeated practice until mastery is achieved. Most of the surgical residencies in the United States has a simulation lab for you to practice, available 24 hours for you to practice at any time and try to improve the skills that you are lacking some, practice. And we also have competency checklists. So we have detailed lists of skills that you must demonstrate to each training stage. So PGY-1, which is residents of first year or interns, has this amount of specific skills that must achieve in order to pass to second year, and you go on so on so. Second to third, third to fourth, fourth to fifth. Okay, so you were ensuring consistent evaluation criteria for each of one of those skills in order to pass to the next level. So what are the challenges in implementing this? There are several challenges, because any change that we face in history or in life is always going to have some resistance, right? So there is resistance to change because it's a cultural shift between the time-based and the competency-based. And also there are institutional barriers. Maybe not all the hospital has the same resources. Therefore, you might not have a simulator, for example. You might not have the specific amount of attendance available to do the evaluation of these assessments. You might not have the physical space for the residents to participate in these clinical assessments. Okay, so the institution needs to invest in order to have this, and not all the institutions or all the hospitals or universities are prepared to do so immediately. So they will be doing slowly during the years, and that's what we have seen happening in the US. Not everybody joined right away to this competency-based education. They were slowly, introducing this change because there was some resistance at the beginning. The research intensity, so we need, as you said, increased faculty involvement. So we need to teach the faculty how to do the evaluation of these skills. And because it's technology, we need to teach them as well from technology. So they will have also a learning curve, and in order for them to evaluate the learning curve of the residents in trainings, the training and development cost, and the infrastructure that you need. Also, assessment standardizations, lack of uniform metrics, or subjectivity in the evaluation. Those things are some skills or some simulation are still in process for evaluation. They don't have yet standardized assessments. So this is an ongoing process because we need something objective and also that we can use across the nation and everybody is evaluated in the same time. So it's standardized, which is the important thing. So everybody have the same level of skills, no matter where you are being trained. You also have implementation logistics, challenging, curriculum design, data tracking. There's a lot of involved in IT, technologies involved in all this. So it's very important for the programs to invest also in this tracking and curriculum design. And not everybody is at the moment ready to do it. It's challenging. So I think these are the four biggest things that could limit your hospital or your residency program to fully immerse in the competency-based education. So what are the global perspectives? There are there is international adoption of this model of training. In Canada, the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons has implemented this model education, and it's called Competency by Design for surgical training. Here in the US, most of the residency program has already this model incorporated, and it's been approved by ACGME, which is the accreditation council for GME. Pretty much is the one who leads everything related to any residency program. And in Europe, there are several countries, not all of them yet, that are integrating this based approaches in their surgical curricula, like in Germany and UK, Italy, France, some in Spain. So it's been open. We're not sure about Asia. I think it's starting to happen in India. Not sure about other countries yet, but it's probably going to start happening in the next years. So we need to go always to go towards the future. What's the futures of the surgical training? And you need to know, this is currently the present, this emerging trends in surgical education. Everybody's going towards using simulation-based training, artificial intelligence, data-driven assessment. We have all these tools that not everybody is using, but we should be using. We have artificial intelligence to produce, for example, how will be the best way to approach this case, in order to discuss this case. Then we have, for example, if you have a robotic program in your program, or either way, laparoscopic program. Now all this training simulator has all the information, all the data. You log in your own. You have a specific username, so you log in the console of the robotic system, and everything will be there. Is recorded, and you have trends. You have how many minutes you spend practicing specific skills. If you are using how fast are you doing the knots? How fast are you transition from one hand to the other hand? How fast you are grabbing the tissue to retract? How fast are you doing the staple line? How fast can you do anastomosis? How fast can you place a mesh? So all the things that you can practice in the simulator, it will be evaluated by artificial intelligence. It will give you a report, and that data-driven will give you an assessment of how are you improving. And then you can do changes with this tool. And you also could, as a attending or as a program director, compare the residents and see, okay, maybe this resident needs a little bit more focus on the area of colorectal or on the area of pancreas, for example. So it depends. So that's important, but it's very personalized, and you could adjust any kind of changes depending on the weaknesses that this specific resident has. So the role of technology in CV training is very important. We also have virtual and augmented reality, VR, AR. There are platforms that are enhancing the hands-on learning by providing immersive experience in the simulated real surgical scenario. For example, the way I went a couple months ago to a training of rib plating when the patient has multiple rib fractures. So now we have the way I had the training with a VR, with the VR lenses and everything, and the 3D space. So I was pretty much performing the surgery just with the VR, measuring the ribs, the plates, how many holes, where I'm gonna do the incision, etc. Everything was augmented reality. It was amazing. And then you're gonna be able, when you go to the OR to do the procedure in real life, it's not new. I mean, you already seen it on a virtual reality, and you're not that lost on a real life case. Robotic surgery training, integrating robotic system into training programs to teach precision techniques that are becoming more prevalent. In the US, pretty much every hospital now has a robot. We have Intuitive. Intuitive is the biggest robotic surgery company. It's in California. It's American. It's the best company producing robots currently in the United States. But now there are so many countries that are also evolving into robotic surgery. We did have in Orlando, Florida here 3 or 4 months ago, the Robotic Surgical Society annual meeting, and we had people come bringing the robots from India, from China, from Spain, from Japan. So I was able to sit down each of all these new robotic consoles. There is a big difference. Intuitive is superior to all of them right now, but they are advancing really quick. And I'm sure in the next 5 years, the technology will be pretty much very similar, and the access, economically speaking, financially speaking, will be much better for those countries if they could produce their own robot systems instead of just trying to buy the one from America that are usually more expensive. Okay, so we have a little bit more of opportunity across the world to be trained with a robotic system. Telemedicine and remote learning. This is also that is very trendy currently. Everywhere, every time you go for a surgical conference around the world, there are telesurgery at the moment, like in live telesurgery conference. So the people you are going to be able to see the surgery live. The main surgery could be in the same hospital or in other part of the city, sometimes in different cities, performing the surgery with the patient in another city around the world. So this is very amazing. There are some limitations with this, but I think that's the future. So we are expanding opportunities for global training collaborations, enable access to expert guidance and mentorship from anywhere in the world. There are surgical societies like that. We have the Robotic Global Surgical Society that you can join. They have a website and a LinkedIn webpage as well. It's called TRUGS, TROGSS, TRUGS. You can join also the Surgical Robotics Society, and there's so many opportunities now for learning. Now that everything is virtual, so you guys can join. And especially if this is what you love or what you want, I will encourage you guys to start looking for learning about all these things. And so when you join a program, you're not lost. How the training process is. There are other 3 things that they're very important: shifting focus towards lifelong learning, vision for the next generation of surgeons, and the global impact and collaborative growth. We have seen that there is a lack between those countries that have access to this kind of technology and those that don't. I mean, we cannot compare American trainee surgeons than Latin American training surgeons or African training surgeons, maybe some countries in Asia they don't have access because of the technology is not there yet. So there is a global impact. It's a small population, the one that have access to this kind of technology, and we are trying to make this a little bit more accessible for everyone anywhere in the world. So that's the really future of surgical training in the world. That's the really importance of being involved in this kind of new collaborations. So this is pretty much the webinar that I really wanted to talk to you guys and explain what is the importance of learning about the new transition from time-based to competency-based. I think competency-based is the best way to learn because we are focusing on a specific learning process, personalized process that will teach you exactly to master each one of those skills. I was there doing the laparoscopic robotic cholecystectomy on the right side. So that's the Da Vinci console. That's the Da Vinci 4. We're waiting for Da Vinci 5, which is the most recent one. But yes, that's pretty much it about the webinar, and we can open for questions and answers.
Thank you so much, Dr. Guarecuco. We really appreciate that. That was very insightful and that was very informative. It's also very timely, I would say, and it's something important. It's the whole future that we have, I think, also in surgery, not only clinical medicine. Thank you for the expertise in sharing such a valuable, someone could say, knowledge that's important for us today and for the future. I'm sure we've gained a lot of knowledge. Now, you guys, a Q&A session has been opened. So in case you want to ask something, please go ahead. Yes, first of all, we have Angie.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so hi, everybody calls me Angie. My name is Angela Seiler. I'm currently based in Switzerland, and so your talk was very insightful, so thank you very much for coming. In my case, like I've kind of been very observant on like so many different surgical education, curricula, especially in Europe, since like there's so many countries, they vary a lot actually. Um, and I definitely agree like that this competency based is the logical way to go move forward. However, I do have like a question, which is like on something that I've like noticed, especially as like some countries have shifted towards competency based, is that um, like there still seems to be a lot of subjectivity when it comes to determining how competent somebody is at doing something, right? Because like, I mean, even though the opportunity is there and there's all this technology and that like we can try to objectivize it as much as possible through like, AI models or systems or that can, keep it like that. There is the sense of like it's a little bit too subjective, which I can understand because I have heard some extreme stories and cases where like your entire surgical education maybe depends on a single consultant, and that single consultant can be more or less proactive on your education, for example. And so I just wanted to know your thoughts on that and like how, especially in those cases where like maybe you just can't continue moving forward because there's that one person who won't allow that. So I just want to know your thoughts on how to address that, I guess.
Yes, that's something that really has happened before. That's why you need to have a institution that evaluates this residency programs in a continuum manner. For example, ACGME, which is the council that evaluates all the programs in the United States, your program must be evaluated. So when they evaluate the program, they not only evaluate the program director, they do a survey for the residents, and they do a survey for the institution in general to make sure that the institution offers everything that the resident have in order to achieve all the knowledge that they need to get this competency-based skills. But they also evaluate the person who is training and the person that is being trained. So when you have discordance on something that is not completely correct, there's a red flag. So that program it has to be, it will be evaluated. It's on the loop. So there's things that need to be changed. If those things are not changed, the program will be closed. So that's why you must be very careful, as a resident, but also as a program director, because the program director needs to make sure that you are giving the opportunity to the residents to do all this. There's always subjectivity, yes, but the important part of this is that you want to be able to have at least to be able to master the general or the basic level of that procedure. And you cannot graduate without being able to do a specific procedure, at least at the basic level. Okay, there are some residents that are going to be better than others, surgically speaking, with their skills. But the difference is, and it always will be, repetition. So the more you do that procedure, the master, you will master that skill easily and faster. And not all residents have the same amount of procedures. For example, in the US, in order to become a surgeon, you need 850 major cases performed in 5 years. Okay, most of the residents do that. Most of the residents all of the residents achieve that at the end of 5 years. Some of them do 900, some of them do 1,000. Big majority of the residents in the US perform more than 1,000 major procedures in 5 years. It's an average of 250 a year, which is pretty good. But when you compare them, not everybody do the same amount of specific cases. I might be able to do more thyroids and parathyroids, so I'm going to become a little bit more knowledgeable, and I'm going to master this skill. And other will do more trauma cases because they are trauma level 1 as a hospital, and others will be able to do more hernias because they have more, they have a hernia center so it depends what you have available. Okay, so in some skills you will master them, some others you won't be able to master, but you should be able to do all of them in a basic level. That's the important part, because then most likely what is going to happen is when you graduate as a surgeon, you will go towards a fellowship, because surgery is so big now. The thing is that you have now a lot of different subspecialties that you can subspecialize. You go for MIS, breast surgery, oncology surgery. You could do vascular surgery, thoracic, cardio, plastics. there's so many options that then you will focus only on that, for endocrine surgery, bariatric surgery. There's so many. So you're just going to be able to focus on that, but you should be able to do everything, at least on a basic level.
Thank you. I totally agree. I actually had a second question, but I don't know if anybody else wants to go first.
Angie, you can just ask the
Yeah.
question.
Okay. So actually a little bit related and just kind of with another, I guess, extreme example, right? Given for example, the scenario where let's say a resident does about it drops out somewhere throughout their residency, and perhaps chooses to pursue a different residency, just realizes that maybe a different specialty is for them. Do you think, in your opinion, that competency-based training can also be utilized to facilitate changing from one program to another, right? Because if you're being evaluated based on certain skills or certain basic things that you should know how to do, right? Should that allow for ease transition between programs, right? Because I mean, because normally at the moment the system's kind of set up so that you have to start from zero, start from scratch. So if you already have a base of knowledge, would that facilitate maybe not having to repeat all of the years that you have to do in order to complete a program?
This is a question. It's difficult to answer that question because usually what happens with residents when they want to switch from one program to other, you need to evaluate what was the real issue, what was the real problem. Because if it's because the resident believes that he's not getting the enough training in the specific area, then if he's not getting the training, none of the other residents are getting the training as well. So the program needs to be evaluated. Is this the only one person that is complaining? Then it could be something personal. So you need to evaluate what's going on with this resident, and that's something that the other facility will ask as well. So why is this only resident trying to change? Maybe it's something personal that happened. He has something, so it's very important. Every time that a resident switch from one program to another program, it's usually not because of a lack of opportunities to learn or to growth, or because they don't have the skills, the competency base. It's usually because other reasons, and other reasons, it could be something personal like family, or you cannot move, you cannot leave, or spend financial or something like that. But if it's something specific about the skills, because what happened, you also need the approval of your program director in order to switch from one program to another. So you need a letter that explains the situation as well. So it's a very delicate situation. It doesn't happen much. If that person feels that it's not getting enough training, what they should do is there should be a meeting with the program coordinator and the program director, evaluate what's going on, and use a personalized program to make this resident improve the specific skill that he believes he's not getting enough training. And that's why it's important, the competency-based, that you have also all the data proven that this this resident is doing all the best he can in order to improve that area. It's different than just having a time base, because he could say, I have the time, but I didn't learn because nobody taught me. And if you already have the competency base, okay, you have, but you didn't sit in the console as many minutes as other residents did. When you perform this, you didn't practice this specific technique in the simulator as many times as other residents did. So when you compare with others, because you have all the data, it's also more objective to evaluate. So it gets kind of tricky. But if you have done everything fine and you just want to change because maybe you want to do fellowship in another hospital, you want to get more experience in another hospital because you already know that something is specific. For example, you want to become a vascular surgeon, and the vascular rotation that you have in your hospital are just not enough. That's a different thing, and you can transition to another program, and the competency base that you already have will help you get there, because if you're a good resident and you are above level or average level, or you have mastered the skill that you're supposed to be mastering at your level, then they will accept you in an easier and faster way. So it will be good, for, I think, in both ways.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Angie, for your questions. Are there any more questions?
Yeah, hi, Dr. Guarecuco. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was great to see both ways of doing it, and how the one you presented makes a lot more sense to move forward with. I was just wondering if you've seen personally a lot of resistance from programs in incorporating this new way of doing it more competency-based instead of time-based, and if you've seen like maybe regional differences or like specific characteristics from like programs that resisted more than others and stuff like that.
I believe there are resistance. I remember this being a very slow change throughout the years, but technology has proved that changing things are for the better. So usually the biggest resistance are for the older surgeons, the old generation surgeons that they learn in a specific way and they talk all their skills in a specific way. Now they have to learn a new way of learning in order to teach others. So the major resistance are the oldest surgeons, but they are giving their space for the newer generation also to be integrated to these kind of models. The other challenge that I see most of these programs faced is related with the financial part. To have a really good competency-based training, you really need all the support, all the you need to be able to have a simulation lab to be have access to all the robotic platforms from Intuitive, also from having VR or AI assistance tools, and all this is very important. And remember that you also need to make sure that this also correlates with HIPAA, specifically in the United States, which is a law that makes sure that all the personal information from the patient is always protected, and cybersecurity. So all these things are things that you need to invest. So it's money on the plate. So this also is always a limitation for some programs or some places or in other countries that they're not ready yet for the complete change. I think it's a slow process, and probably from now to 10 years, it will be a different conversation. I think most of the surgery center will go towards that route.
Makes sense. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Claudia.
Are there any more questions? I do have 2 questions, if that's okay, of course.
Sure, let's do those, and that's it.
Okay, great. So we mentioned a lot of things about VR as well, and I think it's one of the most important things because I've tried it before, only once outside of the OR, of course. I'm not that skilled yet, but it was great. So with the new technology, like the virtual reality, the augmented reality, the robots, right? The future surgeons, and you mentioned this, will be able to train better and more safely, but that will need a little bit more elaboration. So the VR and the AR can let them practice surgeries in a virtual, world and stuff like that. These tools can also help the surgeons, I think, around the world to get some kind of like a level of training, no matter where they are. The question is, how do you think these specific technologies will help the next generation of surgeons? It's just a bit more of elaboration than what you said already. Yes,
I think VR and AR is very important. I think it's going to be, the thing is that not everybody has access to it, right? So there's a big limitation. But if we, around the world, we have access to this in all the centers, for example, things that we are doing here in top-notch technology in the US could be shared anywhere. So anybody could be able to have access to new technology in a better and a faster way. So you learn easier when you are able to see what's going on specifically. So if I'm able to record something and do a new technique on a VR, put in a program and evaluate how I'm doing, then share that knowledge with another person around the world, from in your country, for example, that will be amazing for you because you are learning from the touching up center, from the person who is performing this on a daily basis, and then you should be able to learn as a future surgeon or as a surgery resident to perform this from scratch in augmented reality. And then when you go to the real patients, you won't be like, what happened what is the current part? You just go to the book, you read the book, you see the drawings, you might go to YouTube, and you're lucky to have a good recording. And then when you go to the OR, you will see that it's very different. It's like, I don't know what to do. This is the first time that I'm doing this. You need a person there for you to be able to guide you step by step. But if you have being able to perform the procedure before with an augmented reality, you'll be less scared. Your anxiety will be much less. Your confidence will be higher, and the outcome will be better. So I think that's the importance of using all these technologies. We just need to adjust and be able to have it available across the world.
Definitely, I totally agree with that. And in any way, whether you use new technologies or not, I think practice makes perfect. We are trying to say this like for a long time. I think this is the most important thing. And last but not least, so let's just say that, for example, we have platforms like WebSurge that offer free online access to surgical videos, right? And training modules, programs like, I don't know, like Proximy, for example, they use telemedicine to allow expert surgeons to guide surgeries in real time, etc. We have different platforms. This is the second question. So technology like the VR and AR, again, makes all of these more accessible, as we said, letting surgeons in low resource settings practice complex procedures and like remotely receive some kind of training. So how do you think, this is, I think, quite a hard question, but I hope it's possible to answer this. How do you think these kind of initiatives and the technologies that we already talked about can further support the global collaboration and the learning in surgery?
I think it's already happening because when you attend all these conferences, especially the ones that we do here in the US, every time or every year there are more collaborative conferences and collaborative efforts to make this technology improvement global. So before, in order for you to get to know the latest technologies, you needed to come to the US no matter what, because the best conferences were done here. Now, most of the conferences are done in different countries around the world with collaboration with all the best, for example, with American College of Surgeons and all the different surgical societies. They always have usually the conferences divide in different areas. So one of the areas is always global surgery. So global surgery is always, from the past 2-3 years, is always mentioned as one of the most important part, because being able to bring all this technology to the patients around the world is the most important part. And how can we do that? Bringing this, making a bridge to bring closer the gap between the access that some countries from the first world have to others than the third world has. And so how do we shorten that bridge or that gap? Is using telesurgery, is using AI, is using all this technology that is able to be shared in an instant way around the world just through this. Now that we can communicate this, COVID taught us that we can do all these Zoom meetings and all these things virtually. Since then, everything changed, and technology has grown so fast in the last 5 years, that you will see in the next 5 years will be something unimaginable happening. And the world is connecting more and more. I think the global surgery is doing their job also to improve the patient care across the world. So I think it's a positive impact. It's a positive things that we are doing currently in different societies to try to make this happen across the world.
My question has been answered. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for the invitation. It was really nice.
Thank you so much. That was very insightful. Thank you. Really, we appreciate that. I think we can now stop the recording officially.